The intergalactic academy buzzed like an electric hive, its hallways teeming with students from every corner of the universe. Humanoid forms brushed against ethereal beings, and mechanical companions zipped by, creating an orchestra of voices. Zelkin navigated through the chaos, his skin a striking cerulean, a badge of honor among the warriors of his esteemed but warlike planet. Inside Dr. Elena Reyes's classroom, a hush enveloped the group as she entered, her presence commanding attention. "Today, we embark on an exploration of Earth," she announced, her voice rich with authority. "We will uncover the paradox that humans often choose mercy over war, even when power lies within their grasp." Zelkin let out a scoff, rolling his eyes. "Mercy? That's laughable. Humans were always the ones to start fights, weren't they?" His best friend Vortax shifted beside him, nodding with a complicated mix of disdain and curiosity. Dr. Reyes looked over her students, her knowledgeable gaze piercing through the skepticism. "History is more nuanced than mere aggression, Zelkin. It requires deep understanding." She launched into stories of Earth, a world scarred by wars but reborn through fierce resilience and treaties. As she displayed a holographic timeline, showing conflicts bubbling over into peace treaties, murmurs of disbelief rippled through the class. "They fought and fought," Vortax chimed in, "but they always seem to find a way back to brute force. Why aren't they just enforcing their will?" "Perhaps," Dr. Reyes countered, "they learned that lasting strength is embedded in understanding, not destruction. For every conflict, there exists the possibility of mercy." Zelkin felt a shiver of disturbance in his convictions. "But that sounds weak," he shot back, the fire in his eyes reflecting his upbringing. "Only the strong survive. Isn't that the nature of the universe?" Dr. Reyes held his gaze. "You'll see. The greatest battles are won in the heart." Her reply hung in the air, igniting a flicker of curiosity that Zelkin couldn't quite extinguish. Days drifted by like autumn leaves, and a sense of urgency began to cloud the air in Dr. Reyes's classroom. One bright morning, she strode in with an effervescence that caught everyone's attention. "Today marks the beginning of a pivotal journey," she declared, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. "You'll be simulating a historic human conflict and finding a path toward resolution." Zelkin felt a ripple of mixed feelings. It reeked of futility, yet his curiosity wrestled with his disdain. "Why bother?" he murmured to Vortax. "We all know that humanity's history is replete with aggression. They throw fists, not olive branches." Dr. Reyes surveyed the room, and her eyes landed on him. "Your task will delve into understanding humanity's choices. I challenge you to explore why they often choose dialogue over domination." Before he could protest, Maya, a radiant human student with a contagious smile, leaned in. "Maybe this will help us find strength and understanding, Zelkin. You might be surprised." "Surprised by what? More weak-willed decisions?" he countered, crossing his arms defensively, but her optimism nagged at the edges of his prejudice. As teams formed, fate conspired to place Zelkin with Maya and a few skeptical classmates. The fusion of perspectives was electric, igniting inner turmoil within him. "We might find that not all battles need to be fought with fists," Maya stated, her kind eyes meeting his with unwavering confidence. Zelkin scoffed, but was unable to shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, this project could unveil something groundbreaking. Still, he clung fervently to his warrior ethos, certain that strength defined rightness. Weeks flew by in a whirlwind of discussions, debates, and digital explorations of human history. Each lesson peeled back layers of humanity's past, and Zelkin found himself grappling with the unexpected twists of their narrative. Dr. Reyes guided the class through tales of wartime and peace, the ironies swirling like gusts of wind through a battlefield. "You think you know strength," she began, animating a holographic display of World War I. "Look closely at the devastation. Millions lost, and yet from the ashes of chaos rose structures to unite nations." Her words were both an exposé and a challenge. "Isn't that just a cover-up for weakness?" Zelkin's voice rang out, laced with defiance. "If your species was truly strong, why not assert dominance over rival factions?" "Power is never measured by brute force alone," Maya interjected, her conviction glowing like embers in a dying fire. After conflict, humans learned to rebuild, negotiating peace treaties that protected the innocent. The classroom erupted in debate. Fellow students echoed their sentiments, with eager perspectives, offered like fresh fruit at a market. "Look at the United Nations," shouted Loria, a vivid Astron student. "It emerged to foster cooperation after grave mistakes. That is resilience." As students clashed verbally, Zelkin felt both resistance and intrigue intertwine in his being. Had he misread humans all along? What did it mean to choose understanding when the world demanded strength? Later, in a quieter moment post-discussion, he remained seated in the classroom, lost in thought about the sires of conflict and the possibility of peace. Maya sidled up beside him, her usual cheer dampened by concern. "Zelkin, why do you fight this idea? Can't you feel it? There's strength in unity. You can be a warrior of compassion, too," she offered softly, her earnestness pulling at his hardened exterior. "I'm not sure I can," he replied, voice barely above a whisper. "The teachings of my people. Conflict is the language we speak best. But that doesn't have to be your only dialect," Maya insisted, her eyes steadfast. "Emotional strength can be just as potent as physical might." In the cocoon of her belief, hints of doubt budded within him, wrestling with his ingrained convictions. Perhaps, just perhaps, they were onto something. The day of the field trip dawned bright and golden, an electric nervousness threading through the academy corridors. Zelkin found himself swirling in a storm of anticipation as students piled into the transport pods. Earth awaited, a world alive with humanity. When their pod emerged in downtown Earth, Zelkin was enveloped by urban chaos. The sights and sounds were overwhelming, humans bustling about, conversing fervently, the scent of food wafting through the air, filling his senses, igniting memories of his own planet's war-torn streets. "What is this place?" he breathed. Maya smiled warmly, adjusting the backpack slung over her shoulder. "Welcome to Earth," she exclaimed, shining with excitement. "Today we'll witness firsthand how humans advocate for peace." Suddenly, cheers erupted in the distance, drawing their attention. A massive crowd gathered, marching with purpose, chants rising like a drone symphony. Zelkin's heart raced with unfamiliar excitement but also discomfort. He'd only ever known crowds like this for violence, not for solidarity. Maya tugged him toward the action, their group navigating the throng. "Look over there," she pointed, leading them closer to the enthusiastic activists, banners waving in vibrant hues. The message was loud and clear: peace over war. As they moved among the masses, an impassioned woman took the stage, her voice erupting like thunder, resonating throughout the crowd. "We stand for peace. For the future of our children, we reject violence." Zelkin felt his heart flutter. He had expected animosity, but here was something else: unity. Emotions sparked through the crowd: hope, determination, even love. The sight entranced him. This was humanity at its core. Suddenly, the atmosphere burst apart. Provocateurs emerged, challenging the peaceful protesters. Shouts turned to chaos. Zelkin's instinct kicked in. Chaos was his language. Yet, a unique apprehension held him back. Fighting the surge of aggression, he remembered Maya's words. There's strength in unity. Instead of assuming an aggressive posture, he watched in astonishment as protesters formed a line, linking arms and unfurling their banners in defiance of violence. "Stand strong," shouted the fiery woman from earlier. "Our conviction outweighs their threats." In that pivotal moment, Zelkin was overcome by a surge of emotional resonance. The protesters didn't fight back. They stood in solidarity, a bulwark against aggression, demonstrating what it meant to harness strength through compassion. A line of humanity had drawn between love and fear, and they stood united. Hours later, as the applause cascaded around him, Zelkin turned to Maya, realization dawning in his expression. "Is this what you meant?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. Maya beamed, her eyes brimming. "Yes, this is the power of understanding." Zelkin knew he was witnessing the potency of unity, a stark departure from his former beliefs. The battlefields of memory faded, replaced with a dawning possibility that the strength of his convictions could evolve. Back in the academy, the air was thick with anticipation as students reconvened, buzzing with inspiration. The simulation project loomed ahead, promising a way to challenge their limited perceptions of conflict. Sitting with his team, Zelkin felt a mixed brew of confidence and trepidation bubbling inside. Maya excitedly rattled off ideas for the project, while Vortax looked skeptical, arms crossed tightly over his chest as if fortifying himself against her enthusiasm. "Think about what this simulation means," Maya encouraged. "We have the chance to present resolution through dialogue instead of aggression." "Dialogue?" Vortax sneered, his voice dripping with skepticism. "Do you really believe conversations can stop a battle? Look at history. Couldn't they just get annihilated?" "Exactly," Zelkin chimed in, leaning into his traditional stance. "If it comes to war, there's no room for softness in negotiation. We defend what is ours." Maya shook her head vehemently. "Enough! We've witnessed humanity's capacity for cooperation. The point is to discover the strength in negotiation." She stood firm, energy radiating off her. The fire in her eyes threw a light upon their doubts. Soon discussions morphed into heated debates, the air buzzing with differing opinions. Zelkin felt the tension coiling tighter as they approached important decisions. "Don't you see? Every conflict harbors a choice to build a better future," Maya implored. As they wrestled with their opinions, Zelkin suddenly felt overwhelmed. "Can we truly foster understanding among factions that are bred to fight?" he murmured. "Yes," Maya urged. "If we model peace instead of violence, we might stir deeper dialogues among our own people. We've experienced the fragile beauty of unity." As they bickered, an idea began to take root. Out of the chaotic atmosphere, Zelkin felt a new understanding begin to unfurl within him. Perhaps the possibility of crafting a resolution post-conflict could bridge a gap he once thought insurmountable. "We will propose a summit, a space where leaders come together, share their grievances, and work toward a unified vision," he declared, the passion finally taking root. Uncertainty gripped him, yet he pressed on. "We can present the beauty of empathy and negotiation." Maya's face broke into a radiant smile, the flicker of belief igniting her expression. "That's perfect, Zelkin. Let's dive into history, understand how humans negotiated their peace after war." The group rallied together, energy shifting as they began plotting their strategy. The day of the simulation arrived, a palpable buzz replacing the uncertainty that had tormented Zelkin. Tension crackled in the air as they gathered in the auditorium, all eyes focused on Dr. Reyes as she introduced the conflict they were to simulate. Zelkin's heart raced, anticipation thrumming beneath his skin. This was it, their chance to embody the lessons learned through human history. The room pulsed with energy as he exchanged determined glances with Maya. "Think, strategize, and embody the heart of negotiation," Dr. Reyes called out, energizing her audience. "You will travel through the complexities of conflict and resolution, revealing what it means to grow from adversity." Their team took their places, each playing characters representing opposing factions within the simulation. Zelkin felt adrenaline rush through him as he slipped into his role, embodying the passionate leader of a militaristic faction. Vortax, ever the braggart, dissolved into his own overpowering persona. "Listen up," Vortax called, channeling bravado into his character. "Conquer and control. We are not here for discussions." The crowd around them erupted into chatter, taking sides once again, and Zelkin sensed the familiar pull of aggression rising. "Enough!" shouted another character, portraying a voice for peace. "If we cannot listen and empathize, we will face endless cycles of war." Zelkin hesitated for a moment. A flicker of doubt ignited when he recalled the vibrant protest from earlier. Instead of bending to hostility, he remembered the power of compassion and asked himself, could they turn this scenario around? With determination wavering between uncertainty and resolve, he stepped forward, voice steady. "What if we create a treaty, an agreement to engage in dialogue?" The room hushed, the collective air thickened with surprise. Would they accept? To his surprise, murmurs swept through the crowd. Hesitant discussions, speculating if empathy could truly yield dividends. "Can we uncover a solution that doesn't demand blood?" asked a fellow student. "I fear violent resistance. What risks would emerge?" came another voice, and the dialogue shifted tentatively. A pulse of excitement ignited within Zelkin. Every coalition murmured their opinions while they tentatively considered the newly proposed idea. Students exchanged glances, rallying around the notion of diplomacy over war. No more casual dismissing of our historical roots. We must pave new paths, Zelkin urged passionately. The transformation unfolding before him was the inception of something unprecedented. As interactions flowed, the simulation mirrored a burgeoning dialogue instead of spiteful attacks. Ideas bounced off one another as students engaged in earnest negotiation instead of bluster and brute force. The hours blurred as myriad conversations melded into something beautiful. A vision emerged. Recognition of humanity's power rested not in rage, but rather in their willingness to choose understanding. As the simulation wound toward its inevitable climax, Zelkin felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever upon his shoulders. The cacophony of voices hung in the air like static, but something within him crackled with urgency, a flickering hope that begged to be released. Seeing familiar faces racked in turmoil only fueled his determination. "We don't need to repeat the past," he shouted, challenging the crowd's simmering aggression. "Isn't it time we rise above our baser instincts?" Yet doubt echoed within the chamber, faces turning sour at the prospect of weakening their stances. Raylan, a formidable voice representing an adversarial faction, glared at him, his voice like ice. "We're not here to exchange pleasantries. We're here to secure dominance." The air thickened with tension as arguments reignited. Zelkin could visibly see the spectrum of frustration, reactions spurring toward conflict rather than resolution. Panic clawed at his insides, but then he recalled images of humanity's profound strength, the moments of unity that shone brightly during the protest when vulnerability became triumphant. "Rollin, look where brute force leads us," Zelkin pressed, moving closer. "Only destruction follows, leaving behind anguish. Can we afford to harbor such a legacy?" The clamor subsided as he gathered the courage to stand against the tide. "Instead, let us evolve beyond mindless aggression. Instead of digging our trenches, let's lay down our arms." The crowd simmered in uncertainty, but the flicker had been ignited. Zelkin seized that moment, stepping forward with courage. "I propose a summit, an opportunity for transparency, grievances to air, and a pathway toward understanding. A truces stands before discord." His voice was a clarion call. Tension hung in the air, and for a moment, time seemed to slow. Students exchanged uncertain glances, and after what felt like forever, murmurs rose like a tide taking shape. "Can we really turn toward dialogue?" echoed one voice. "I believe we can," shouted another, encouraged by Zelkin's conviction. "Let's break the cycle ourselves." The energy shifted dramatically, igniting a contagious sense of joint purpose among previously opposing sides. Conversations erupted, bridging chasms of distrust, even as rows of students began pressing together in earnest dialogue. Discussions morphed into cooperative brainstorming as they navigated conflict, driven by the vision of a shared future. As the dialogue continued, even Vortax, once set against tenderness, found himself captivated by the burgeoning camaraderie. "This is what courage looks like," he declared, eyes aglow. "Standing together despite our differences." Zelkin found himself embraced in the warmth of this newfound connection, understanding that even the fiercest warriors could disarm their hearts. It was no longer about power alone. It was about resilience anchored in compassion, solid courage born from the ashes of fear. When the simulation concluded, an eruption of applause washed over the room, echoing a sense of triumph and unity. Dr. Reyes stood beaming, joyous that seeds of transformation had taken root among her students. "Today you not only simulated conflict, you embodied understanding," she praised. "You bridged divides through empathy. Carry this forward." After the successful simulation, Zelkin reveled in the newfound energy coursing through the academy. Conversations layered with respect flowed freely. Students no longer simply quarreled. They engaged, considered complex ideas, and opened their hearts to understanding. Yet amidst the brightness, melancholy tinged his thoughts. Zelkin pondered how to bring this awakening back to his war-torn homeland, a landscape of disillusionment and battle scars. Would familiarity with mercy translate beyond the walls of this academy? In the days that followed, he sought solace and clarity, often finding himself alone contemplating the teachings nestled within him, thoughtful and yet hopeful. One afternoon he stood beside Dr. Reyes in her office, taking in the rich tapestry of civilizations represented in their classroom. "Zelkin," she began lightly, her voice a gentle caress. "Change takes time, but it starts with one person, spreading like ripples in a still pond. Your experiences may influence those back home." "Do you think it's possible?" he asked, his eyes searching for answers amidst the uncertainty. "Can I truly instigate a wave of understanding?" "Absolutely," she encouraged, warmth enveloping them both. "Your words hold power. When the time comes, let them see what you've discovered here, humanity's choice for empathy over hostility." As the weeks faded, Zelkin immersed himself in not just academics, but rich friendships, laying aside walls that once defined him. Vortex began transforming as well, threading around the fabric of unity rather than isolation. "We'd better spark something meaningful." Vortex grinned as they shared thoughts one evening, remnants of laughter exploding against the walls of the academy. "I'll be ready when we face their doubts." Zelkin nodded, understanding that this journey was no longer bound just to him. His tribe of learners would become the allies needed to challenge systems built on aggression. During study sessions that welcomed new voices, conversations burgeoned with exploration, ideas that rolled like thunder amid storms, each heart growing gradually braver, bolder. The vibrancy of connection ignited something deep within him, aching to not only share what he found on Earth, but to weave it back into the culture that defined him. The day of presentations dawned bright, infusing the atmosphere with electricity. The auditorium brimmed with students awaiting the unfolding of profound stories, all eager to witness how each group's growth unfurled. Zelkin sat amongst his team, fingers trembling in anticipation. Energy radiated from their camaraderie, infusing a sense of purpose into the air. "We've worked hard, and today we showcase the evolution of our thoughts," Maya whispered encouragingly, her confidence enveloping him. "All right, let's do this," Zelkin murmured, taking a deep breath. Dr. Reyes welcomed the students and set the stage, a gentle call for heartfelt expression. The groups began one by one, offering pieces of their burgeoning comprehension, showcasing their refinements and personal discoveries. Each story encapsulated resilience and revelation. Finally, it was their turn. As they stepped onto the stage, the room quieted, anticipation drawing everyone's breath. Zelkin faced the audience, feeling the weight of existence pressing onto his shoulders. "We are warriors, but we must redefine what that means," he began, voice steady yet impassioned. "Our project blossomed from the seeds planted amid humanity's conflicts to highlight the beauty nestled in empathy. We learned that lasting power resides not merely in strength, but in conversations that heal." Maya, stepping into her role, interjected. "In every tale of war, there lay opportunities for dialogue, a thread connecting souls across divided lines. Our resolution is a summit, embodying the choice for negotiation and understanding." As he spoke, emotions flowed, each sentence crystallizing the transformations sparked within him. Unwavering gazes locked onto his, witnessing the evolution not just of a project, but of their collective identities. "I stand here today, not just as your fellow student," he finished, "but as a beacon of possibility. In kindness lies our wisdom, in unity our strength. Let this embodiment of mercy ripple through our civilizations, transforming hearts and minds." The auditorium exploded into applause, surrounding them with a wave of excitement and validation. Dr. Reyes stood, her proud smile lighting up the room, affirming that the journey had only begun. As he stepped off the stage, Zelkin felt invigorated and humbled. This was the promise of change, reflected back at him from the faces carved by hope and ambition, a tapestry woven together by the threads of understanding. In the weeks that followed, the atmosphere at the academy shifted like the dawn of a new day. Conversation surged into a river of empathy, students engaged in open dialogue, actively bridging divides. Zelkin, no longer trudged through the academy as a warrior burdened by ideology. He walked tall as a student of compassion, ready to share the profound wisdom blossoming within him. The vibrancy of his newfound companions filled him with inspiration to extend their lessons beyond these walls. One morning he stood at the edge of campus, contemplating his return to the war-torn lands of his birth. Could he rally voices for peace among the clashing factions, instigating a revolution rooted in understanding? The task felt monumental, yet he felt the steadfast energy compressing within him, permitting it to emerge. With each conversation held not just as an exchange of ideas, but as an opportunity to foster connection, he felt emboldened. The lessons learned echoed like whispers in the wind as he prepared to return, eager to foster change across the chasms of contention. Reaching out to Vortax, who had transformed into a staunch ally, he found an openness building between them. "You've fortified my belief in compassion, friend. Together we will show them a new way," Vortax affirmed, the fire of understanding bright in his gaze. The day of departure dawned, and as he looked back at the academy, a jolt of pride surged through him. They had cultivated seeds of change, a tapestry of understanding woven through stories of humanity. With hope and resolve nestled in his heart, Zelkin stepped into the unknown beyond the academy, intent on sharing the wisdom he discovered, unfurling paths toward peace within the hearts of his people, knowing that mercy was strength, and every step forward echoed with the power of choice.